Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in ayah number 177, which is an extremely important ayah, which is known as the ayat of righteousness, the ayat of bir, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains in detail what is meant by this thing called bir, righteousness. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون. Righteousness is not merely that you turn your faces to the east and the west, because in special reference to context, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been talking about the change of the qibla, right? Right? Righteousness is that one believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day and the angels and the book and the prophets, and gives wealth despite his love for it to relatives and to orphans, to the helpless, the wayfarer, and to those who ask, and spends in freeing slaves and observes the salah and pays zakat, and act of those who fulfill their covenants when they enter into a covenant, like upholding promises, and of course those who are patient in hardship and suffering, and when they are in battle. Those are the ones who are actually truthful, and those are the ones who are the muttaqun. So this is what righteousness is. First of all, belief, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah is saying all of these elements need to be there for righteousness, for a person to call themselves righteous, right? If you see over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Amana billahi wal yawmil akhir wal malaika wal kitaba wa atal mala, right? And, wa means and. It doesn't say aw or, right? So believe in some prophets and don't believe in others. And there is a sequence to it as well. Sequences in the Quran are very, very important. Firm belief, iman billah, on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, firm belief in the akhirah, firm belief in the angels, firm belief in the divine books, firm belief in all of the prophets. I will be out of this equation if I say that I believe in all of the prophets except Yunus alayhi salam, na'udhu billah, right? Or whatever. I believe in all of the angels except Mikael, right? I believe in all of the books except Taurat. No, all of them. Firm belief. Right? And then the other interesting thing to see over here is that right after belief, Iman, the Imaniyat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not talking about establishing salah and paying zakah. Allah is talking about spending what you love. That's a very important point to note over here. What is bir? Any, good deed and righteous deed are not necessarily the same, because the dunya that we live in, right, and we see around us, even if we only talk about Pakistan, right, even if we only talk about, why should we only talk about Pakistan? There are other people from other parts of the world. If we look at our society, we see that there are people who have this firm belief, alhamdulillah, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? They're establishing zakah, they are establishing salah and paying zakah, etc., etc. But unfortunately, sometimes their spending is a little dodgy. Sometimes the fulfilling of contracts is a little dodgy, right? Some element over here is missing. Then we have some people who are spending, right? Who are honest in their contracts. Whatever they say, they uphold their word, right? They don't cut a line. They don't usurp other people's rights, right? They are very active philanthropists. I can never pronounce this word properly. They are very active in giving. Yeah, they're involved in various different projects, alhamdulillah. But when it comes to firm belief on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to firm belief in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're like, yeah, okay, you just need to be a good person. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is, you need to be a good person and you need to be a person of Iman. Only then will you be a righteous person. Only then will you be a person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call an abd. So spend, and even in spending, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given priority. Close relatives. It is our responsibility that if our relatives, now unfortunately, back in the day, people were, that is something we need to learn from our forefathers, from our nannies and our daddies and our aunts and our uncles, etc., that they upheld family ties. They knew so and so, who's that? Oh, that. Oh, very close relative. He's your khala's, I don't know, first cousins, my first cousin's daughter's husband, or whatever. Yeah, very close relative. Now we don't even know our first cousins. Now we don't even make an effort to know our first cousins, right? If we are not going to know them, how are we going to know if they are in need? How are we going to know? And they have the first right on what we have. The first right is of the relative. The first right is of the relative. If we don't keep contact, how will they ever reach out? How, and they then want to ask or beg? It is my responsibility to find out if I have a relative who's in need. If I have somebody in my susral who's in need, that is my husband's relative, that is Janu's relative, right? Spend what you love on close relatives. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can be other ways of helping people. Orphans, those are the, kind of sidelined in society. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born an orphan, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the one who looks after an orphan, right, will be with me on the day of judgment like this. And he put his two fingers together, right? Looking after orphans, looking after the needy, particularly those needy who don't ask, right? Particularly because you see, there is a category of needy who ask, right? There are needy who we call like white collar, right? Or in Urdu, we say safed posh. We're not going to ask, how are we going to know all of this? Who's needy and who's not needy? If we are involved with people, if we are involved in our communities, right? Our deen is not about just sitting and reading the Quran and doing your own namaz and doing your own ibadah. No, part of it is being aware of what is going on around you, being involved with people, helping people, being there for people. That is very much part of our deen. You can see that in this framework of righteousness. And the travelers, Wabn Sabil, a lot of times travelers, right, particularly at the time of Rasulullah, it can happen even now, that they are perfectly well off in their homes, but when they're out, etc., they might need help. And those who ask, now this is a big question that we sometimes have, that we have so many people in Pakistan, I'm specifically talking about, or maybe other countries as well, uh, where people are professional beggars. We know that they are professional beggars. All of these people standing at traffic lights, particularly in Ramadan, there are hordes and hordes who come from interior parts of the country to ask. Hmm? What should we do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, spend on the one who asks. Even if he is a professional beggar, how did he become a professional beggar? That could have been you standing there instead of you sitting in your air conditioned car with the driver driving. That could have been you, right? You don't know what her or his circumstances are. You don't know what is happening to that poor child who's begging on the street. Give them something. The good idea is to keep some food in your car. Maybe something that doesn't perish easily, maybe little ticky packs of biscuits or whatever. These days when it's hot, you can even keep cold drinks, cold water or some juice, I don't know, something which is easy to give and it won't spoil easily. Give to them, give something, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, when you are giving, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you're giving it in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand. You're giving it in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand. In Ramadan, particularly, you're going to see that a lot of people come and ring your bell and then asking for something, right? And even if you can't, there's something in the house. Alhamdulillah, we live in homes where there's something. Give 2 slices of bread, give an egg, I don't know, give a banana, whatever. Whatever is there, give something. Doesn't have to be a lot, right? Give, spending what you love on them. And ransom of slaves is also a part of this, right? There is this amazing group who works, I'm talking about specifically in Karachi, which is called Insaf, and they do bail of prisoners, and they have a very, very well established network, right? Where they find out, because we know that sometimes, unfortunately, our justice system fails many, and for a puny 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 rupees bail for either a puny crime or completely innocent person is put in jail, yeah, and there is no way for them to get out. So they would be they would come under this category of ransoming of slaves, because we don't have slaves now, right? But of ransoming of prisoners. Establishing salah, paying zakat. Don't be stingy in paying zakat. It is a farud ibadah. You're not doing anybody any favor. You are purifying your wealth. Allah is only asking 2.5%. He was within his right to ask 80% and you keep 20%. He was within his right because he's the one who's given whatever we have. And we have so many loopholes. Is pe zakat hai, to us pe zakat hai. No, find out specifically what your wealth is. Make a list. Don't just kind of calculate randomly. If you have jewelry, calculate it properly. And this is something which should be done before Ramadan. But just in case you haven't done, a lot of times we give zakat in Ramadan. You don't have to. You can distribute it throughout the year, right? You can distribute it throughout the year. Find out the fiqh of zakat. Find out what assets you have, what is zakatable, what is not zakatable, how to go about it. It is fard on each and every individual. If you are the owner of jewelry, it is your responsibility to pay the zakat. It is not Janu's. And if he does pay it, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, he's doing you a favor. Recognize that, acknowledge that, say thank you for that. The one who doesn't thank human beings never does shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do shukr of Janu that you are paying my zakat, alhamdulillah. Otherwise, even if you don't have any other source of income, you will sell your jewelry and pay your zakat. Otherwise, don't keep jewelry. It is so important paying zakat. So important, right? Fulfilling of contracts. Whenever you make a promise, and contracts can be verbal contracts, contracts can be written contracts. Sometimes we make promises to children and we never fulfill them, right? The best course of action, moms, we shall see. When a child asks something, if you can't commit 100%, we shall see. I'll think about it. That's a safer option, right? We have this problem. Promise. Yes, yes, I will do it. Yeah. Allah ki qasam. My goodness, sometimes we say that as well, right? Allah ki qasam. And then you're not going to fulfill it, right? If you are volunteering somewhere, right? Although it is not a written contract, you are volunteering with a community organization, you have made a non-verbal contract. So fulfill it. Fulfill your contract. Be there when you are needed or for whatever it is that you have signed up for, right? An important part of righteousness. We don't even think about it. In fact, us believers have become so sad in this area that a lot of times people say, if they say inshallah, that means up to tala. Now this is never going to happen. We say inshallah and we don't do it. Yeah. We are like the Bani Israel in that way, right? Trying to find some loophole. No, fulfill your contracts. If you have said to your mother that I will come at such and such time, not try your level best, go. Otherwise, don't make such a solid commitment. We are very quick in making solid commitments and very casual in not keeping them, right? And being firm and patient in pain and suffering. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any test that comes, right? Any pain that comes for whatever reason, being firm and patient. Inna Allah ma'as sabirin, yeah? Any adversity, any moment of panic, right? Be firm and patient, right? Be firm and patient. And how are we going to be firm and patient in times of panic or anxiety or adversity? When we are used to practicing sabr, right? When we are used to doing sabr, only then can we do it. Otherwise, how will we do it? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ulaika alladhina sadaqu. Those are the people of sidq. Those are the people who, when they say La ilaha illallah, they've actually meant it. Wa ulaika humul muttaqun. And those are the ones who are God-fearing and muttaqin. Those are the ones who are truly muttaqin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to internalize these verses, to truly think about what bir is, what righteousness actually is. And inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to practice it 100%, not 99, not 98, not 99.8, 100%, inshallah.